sin for having resolved to kill Jesus. And likewise in many other places there is the clear hint that as a penalty for the crime of which they had been guilty against Jesus, they had deserved punishment in the sight of God. And among the testimonies of the gospel which have reached us is the verse of Matthew, namely, "Verily I say unto you, there be some standing here which shall not taste of death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." Matthew 16:28. Likewise the verse in John, Jesus saith unto him, "If I will that he," that is the disciple John, "tarry," that is in Jerusalem, "till I come," John 21:22. This means, if I will, John will not die till I come again. These verses show with great clarity that Jesus, peace be on him, had made a promise that some people would continue to live till his return. Among these he had named John, so the fulfillment of this promise was inevitable. Accordingly, even Christians have admitted that in order that the prophecy may be taken to have been fulfilled, Jesus is coming at a time when some of the people of that age were still alive was inevitable, so that the prophecy should have been fulfilled according to its promise. This is the basis of the clergyman's declaration that Jesus, in accordance with his promise, had come to Jerusalem at the time of its destruction, and that John had seen him as he was alive at that time. But let it be noted that Christians do not say that Jesus really came down from heaven accompanied by appointed signs. They rather say that he appeared to John as in a vision, that he might fulfill his prophecy contained in verse 28 of chapter 16 of Matthew. But I say that coming of this kind does not fulfill the prophecy. That is a very weak interpretation which only avoids with difficulty the criticism leveled against this position. This interpretation is patently untenable and wrong, so much so that there is no need to refute it. For if Jesus had to appear to anyone in a dream or a vision, a prophecy of this kind would be ridiculous. Footnote, I have seen in certain books interpretations of Matthew 16:28 by Malvies, which are more labored than even the interpretations of Christians. They say that when Jesus declared it to be a sign of his coming, that some people of that generation would still be alive, and that a disciple would also be alive when the Messiah would appear. It is necessary that that disciple should be living up till now, for the Messiah has not come yet, and they think that that disciple is hiding somewhere on some mountain, awaiting for the Messiah. Back to the main text. In such manner, Jesus had also appeared to Paul long before this. It appears that the prophecy contained in verse 28 of chapter 16 of Matthew has caused a panic among the padres, and they have not been able to give it a rational meaning in accordance with their own beliefs. For it was difficult for them to say that Jesus, at the time of the sacking of Jerusalem, had descended from heaven in glory, and that like the lightning that lights up all heaven and is seen by everybody, all had seen him. And also it was not easy for them to ignore the statement, namely, some of those who were standing here will not taste death till they have seen the Son of Man coming in his kingdom. Therefore, as a result of a labored interpretation, they believed in the fulfillment of the prophecy in the shape of a vision. But this is not true. Righteous servants of God always appear in visions to the elect, and for a vision it is not even necessary that they should appear only in a dream. Nay, they can be seen even in the waking state. I myself have experienced such phenomena. I have seen Jesus, on whom be peace, many a time in kashf, vision in the waking state, and I have met some of the prophets while fully awake. I have also seen our chief, master, and leader, the prophet Muhammad, may peace and the blessings of God be upon him, many a time in the waking state, and I have talked to him in such a clear state of waking that sleep or drowsiness had nothing to do with it. I have also met some of the dead at their graves or other places while awake, and have talked to them. I very well know that such meeting with the dead in the waking state is possible. Not only can we meet, we can also talk and even have a handshake. Between this and the ordinary state of waking, there is not difference in such an experience. One realizes that one is in this very world. One has the same ears, the same eyes, and the same tongue, but deeper reflection reveals a different universe. The world has no realization of this sort of experience, for the world lives a life of indifference. This experience is a gift from heaven. It is for those who are endowed with new senses. This is a fact, actual and true. Therefore, when Jesus appeared to John after the destruction of Jerusalem, though he was seen by the latter in the waking state, and though there may have been some talk and a handshake, nevertheless the incident has nothing to do with the prophecy. Such phenomena often happen in the world, and even now, if I devote some attention to it, I can, with the grace of God, in the waking state, see Jesus or some other holy prophet. Such a meeting does not fulfill the prophecy contained in Matthew chapter 16, verse 28. So what actually happened was that Jesus knew that he would be saved from the cross and would migrate to another land, that God would neither let him die nor would take him away from this world so long as he had not seen the destruction of the Jews with his own eyes, and that he would not die so long as the fruits of the kingdom, which the spiritually eminent are given by heaven, were not realized. Jesus made this prophecy so that he might give an assurance to the disciples that presently they would see the signs, that those who had raised the sword against him would be killed with the sword during his own lifetime and in his very presence. If, therefore, evidence is of any value, there is for Christians no evidence greater than this, that Jesus, with his own tongue, makes the prophecy that some of them would still be alive when he would come again. It should be noticed that the Gospels contain two kinds of prophecies about the coming of Jesus. One, the promise of his coming in the latter days. His coming is of a spiritual character and resembles the second coming of the prophet Elijah in the time of Jesus. So, like Elijah, he has already appeared in this age, and it is I, the writer, a servant of humanity, who has come as the promised Messiah, in the name of Jesus, on whom be peace. Jesus has given the news of my coming to the Gospels. Blessed is he who, out of respect for Jesus, ponders with honesty and truth over my coming, and thus the prophecies regarding the second coming of Jesus mentioned in the Gospels have in reality been mentioned as evidence of the life which, by the grace of God, remained intact during the experience of the cross. God saved his eminent servant from death on the cross, as the prophecy just now mentioned implies. Christians are in error in mixing up these two contexts. Because of this, they are confused and have to face many difficulties. In short, the verse in chapter 16 of Matthew is a very important piece of evidence in support of Jesus' escape from the cross. Among the testimonies of the Gospels which have reached us is the following verse of Matthew, quote, "And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory." See Matthew chapter 24, verse 30. The meaning of this verse is, Jesus, on whom be peace, says that a time will come when from heaven, namely as a result of the power of divine intervention, there would come into being knowledge, arguments, and evidence which will invalidate the beliefs of Jesus' divinity, his death on the cross, and his going up into heaven, and coming again, and that heaven will bear witness against the lies of those who denied his being a true prophet, for example, the Jews, and who, on the other hand, regarded him, because of his crucifixion, as a man accursed, for the fact of his not having suffered death on the cross, and therefore of his not being accursed, would be clearly